Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani, and today's talk is going to be on constipation. Some of the underlying driving factors that cause and contribute to constipation, and some tests you can do to also assess some of those root causes. So again, constipation, what it is basically not having a bowel movement for at least 24 hours. Again, we spend over $2 million on laxatives per day in this country, so a lot of people spending a lot of money just to take a poop, which should be free. So one of the big things that affects constipation is gut bacteria. So essentially we have two major groups of gut bacteria. We have methane producing bacteria and we have hydrogen producing bacteria. We find that it's going to be the methane producing bacteria that's going to contribute and cause constipation more frequently. We'll see the hydrogen producing bacteria contribute to diarrhea more, but it's going to be the methane that's really driving the constipation. Now what's happening is this. The methane producing bacteria actually disrupts peristalsis. So peristalsis is the actual wave-like contractions in our intestines. So this is our intestinal tract here. We have some stool right there in the middle, and we have these wave-like contractions like this that act like taking a toothpaste container and you roll it up to squeeze the toothpaste up. It's kind of the same thing in our intestines. And these wave-like contractions are designed to move the fecal material, the stool, out of the intestinal tract into the toilet. And one of the big things we see here is the methane actually comes down and it disrupts this. It disrupts the body's ability to move that stool material out of the gut. And again, the methane bacteria, we have two main kinds of gut bacteria. We have gram-negative and gram-positive. Just think of a plus and a minus. And the methane tends to be, it can be both. It can be both plus and minus gram-negative or gram-positive bacteria. And the underlying deeper cause of constipation is going to be getting the gut bacteria back to balance. And we'll talk about some of the factors that are driving that. So that's kind of the underlying mechanism. One of the big things that the gut bacteria does is it actually disrupts serotonin levels in the gut. That's why a lot of people with IBS, again, methane, the higher your methane levels are, the increased risk factor for IBS you have. But we'll see people that have these issues actually have lower serotonin gut levels. That's why one of the things that we're going to talk about here that helps this is cutting out FODMAPs. They've done diets where they've cut out these FODMAPs, and we've seen increased mood and well-being with patients that decrease their FODMAPs. And the mechanism is they're decreasing a lot of these fermentable sugars that are in the gut, even from healthy vegetables like maybe garlic and onions and broccoli. They actually feel better. So part of the mechanism is decreased serotonin. And one of the things that we'll do, sometimes we'll use, if we see it on an organic acid test, we'll see increased 5-hydroxyindole acetate, or we'll see maybe sleep issues. We'll add some 5-HTP in there, and sometimes we'll see an improvement. Again, it won't be addressing the root cause, it'll be more palliative, but it just gives you something to think about. Methane and how it's affecting the neurochemicals. Now let's talk about some diet and lab testing here. We already touched upon some of the diet with the FODMAPs. With the lab testing, there's something called a breath test, or a SIBO breath test, a lactulose breath test. Lactulose is a specific large molecule of sugar that's essentially difficult or impossible for our body to digest unless we have higher amounts of these bacteria. So what will happen is we'll take this lactulose solution and we'll blow into a tube every 20 minutes. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 90, and 120. And what we're looking for is elevations in the bacteria coming out in the breath at certain times. So for instance, on the hydrogen side, we'll have positive hydrogen test if we have greater than 20 part per million within 120 minutes. And again, the reason why 120 minutes, the time you take that lactulose solution, it takes about 2 hours to work its way down to the distal ileum, that jejunum ileum, the end of the small intestine area, where a lot of that bacteria from the colon has migrated back from the colon into the small intestine, and that bacteria is now starting to act upon a lot of that sugar, and that result is higher amounts of hydrogen. Greater than 20 is going to be a positive test. For methane, greater than 3 within 120 minutes. So if we see constipation and we see greater than 3 on methane, well, our thesis or our idea of the methane being a driving factor stands true. And also if we see a combination of greater than 15 combined, let's say we had maybe 12 hydrogen or let's say we had maybe 14 hydrogen and 2 methane, maybe not enough to trigger a positive on either one, but that may trigger a positive on the combined level. So that kind of gives you a good idea how we can use breath testing as a way of assessing whether a bacterial overgrowth is driving the whole mechanism of constipation. And again, diets, cutting out refined sugar is also going to be a good one. So let's say we decreased FODMAPs, but we were eating a lot of refined junk sugar. It may not be a FODMAP, but that sugar can potentially feed fungus, and fungus does produce mycotoxins, and mycotoxins will also disrupt peristalsis. So it's very possible that a fungal overgrowth is driving that. And again, FODMAPs may not be enough to really decrease the mycotoxins. So again, some things we can do is cut out FODMAPs, maybe add some 5-HTP support. Again, this is all going to be palliative. One of the big things we see is a lot of SIBO happens in diabetics, where we have a paralytic, we have basically a paralytic ileus, or we have decreased motility due to potential nerve damage. Some things like ginger can be very helpful. It's a prokinetic, it helps move things along the digestive tract. So ginger can be really helpful. We may even use things like magnesium, like a mag citrate, and we may do that to a bowel tolerance, taking, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 grams of magnesium till we get that bowel evacuated. Even things such as coffee, and these again aren't going to be fixing the root cause, right? Coffee, senna, cascara sagrada, these are all natural laxatives that won't fix the root issue. These are all palliative. FODMAPs may be a root causal thing, again, but everything else will be palliative. The big driving issues, we have to get the bacteria addressed. We have to get the methane. So we may want to talk about using antimicrobials. We may want to talk about doing antimicrobials to actually get to the root cause. Now, in a lot of the studies here, I'm going to put a couple of the studies that I read to formulate this blog or this video blog post here, and I'll put them in the reference section below the video. But some of the big things we can do is we can do oil of oregano, right? Oil of oregano. We can also do neem. We can also do berberines. These are all really good herbs. And again, I'm into functional medicine, natural medicine, so my bias is going to be more towards the natural antimicrobials. Alison Seebecker's done a handful of studies on this, and she's found that the results are about the same, whether you do rifaximin, which is the conventional antibiotic therapy, or whether you do the natural antimicrobials above. They're about the same. Some studies show the natural antimicrobials better and more self-selecting. I posted research that the natural antimicrobials also help with the efflux pump, so that's one of the main mechanisms why you get less side effects with the natural antimicrobials. So my bias is more towards the natural ones. Again, my biggest concern is a lot of times there may be deeper underlying issues here, and it may not just be a SIBO issue. We may have a deeper H. pylori infection. We may even have a parasite. I just had a patient last week, been treated and tested for SIBO many, many times, thinks it's a SIBO issue, came back on the test with Giardia infection. So we always have to look for the deeper infections that could be at the root driving this. So obviously making sure sugar consumption's down, good vegetables, good carbohydrates from low glycemic, low sugar sources, healthy proteins, healthy fats, and sometimes even fiber can be really helpful. I'm a bigger fan of doing apple pectin, celery pectin, modified citrus pectin. Some will say the psyllium husk, but that can be a little bit irritating on the gut. So I like more of the natural pectins. They're a little bit softer and they're more water soluble as well. So again, this is Dr. Justin here. Lots of good stuff. We talked about how to diagnose, how to test, how to use diet, how to use natural herbs, and what some of the conventional treatments are with rifaximin, a 10 to 14 day program with rifaximin too. So again, if you want to get to the root cause of your gut issues or your constipation issues, feel free and click on the screen or reach out below. I got lots of free video series and resources at your fingertips, so make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date with me on all the current things I'm putting out there. Thanks, this is Dr. J. Have a great day.